Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you are all having a great start to your New Year's. And if you are in the Charlotte area, Tanya and I were just chatting about tomorrow's potential snow. So really exciting. Well, I'm really excited for that. All right, so let's get started. You are joining Aparo's Nonprofit Bites and Insights, the first one of the year. These are our webinar series that are free for nonprofit professionals. We invite speakers from all different industries, from different expertise, different skill sets to come share their knowledge and insights with us. Today, we are focusing on Google Workspace. This presentation will be led by Tanya Veronelli, and she's going to focus on some tips for maximizing Google Workspace for your nonprofit. Before I turn it over to her, let's go over some housekeeping items. So this session is being recorded and it will be uploaded and shared on our YouTube channel as well as our website. All of you who are attending live with us today will receive a follow-up email from me. It'll include the link to the recording so you don't need to search for it. You'll also get a copy of the slide deck and any other resources we might talk about today. Q&A and chat box are available for you to use to ask questions, make comments. Please feel free to drop in your questions at any time throughout the presentation. For those of you who are new to Apollo, just really quickly, we are based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are a nonprofit ourselves. And essentially what we do is we help other nonprofits with any of their technology and business process needs, challenges, barriers, etc. We see ourselves as a connector, so we connect nonprofits not only with our in-house expertise, but also with skilled volunteers like Tanya, and also corporations to help make sure that we can cover any of your questions, any of your needs, and support that we can provide for you in the areas of advice, education, and solutions. We offer a wide range of services to make sure we're trying to make sure we meet the needs of the nonprofits. I won't go through all of this, but if you'd like to learn more, if you're interested in just kind of exploring what services we do offer, the best way is to go to our website at apar.org to learn more. If or when you decide you'd like to chat with one of our tech therapists, or if you have a request on vendors, on solutions, or just need some support and guidance, you can submit a service request on our website and someone will get in touch with you as soon as possible. And then if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our email list to stay posted on our programs. And that is it for me. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to Tanya.
Thanks, Yanting. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Just give me 1 second while I share my screen. We'll try that again. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Looks good.
Great, thanks. Okay, so again, thanks for joining me today. My name is Tanya Varinelli, and I'm excited to see so many people here. I think that means that a lot of people are really interested in learning how to use different tools to maximize your work, and we can talk about how Google Workspace for nonprofits to do that. So based on the registration questions today, I also know that our attendees have varying level of experience and interest in the different tools. So today we're going to share some actionable tips and also some broader best practices and feature highlights that hopefully everyone here can take away something to bring back to their desk later today. Before we dig in, I just want to share a little bit about me. I've spent most of my career supporting nonprofits, and the last 2 years I've been working as an independent consultant. And I was so happy to be invited to speak on this topic. I'm a big fan of Google products, have been using Google for a very long time, both personally and for work reasons. And as Yenting mentioned, I've been a tech therapist with Aparo for a couple of years now, and now I am an expert link vendor. So here is our agenda for today. We're going to cover a few things. So first, we're going to start, why is this important? And talk about specifically what Google Workspace for nonprofits is, how to get started, dig into those top 5 tips and best practices, and cover some bonus tips if we have some time, and then also talk about next steps and resources. So why is this important? Why are we here? I think all of us in the nonprofit space, we're used to wearing many hats, doing a lot of different things and trying to maximize the resources that we have. And by leveraging technology effectively, the nonprofits team can expand their capacity, hopefully making work a little bit easier and being able to serve your mission even better and have greater impact. So there's a lot of tools that we all use and a lot of tools that can help us do that. But today we're going to talk about Google Workspace for nonprofits and how all of the products can help maximize your resources, which will lead to greater collaboration and hopefully empowered teams and a positive workplace culture. So what is Google Workspace for nonprofits? Google Workspace for nonprofits is essentially everything that Google Workspace offers. So you can see on the bottom of the slides the icons for some of the tools. Hopefully, a lot of these are familiar to folks here. But the great benefit is that for nonprofits, this whole ecosystem of products and services is free. I know there might be some people here on this call that are using the workspace tools, but maybe not activating the nonprofit benefits. So we're going to talk about how to do that. But it's really worthwhile to do because you get everything here for free. There's no limit on users. Well, there's actually a limit of 2,000 users, which hopefully I think we'll all be under that. So it will maintain a free status, except if you need more storage. So if you get to a point where you need, I think, over 2 terabytes of storage, that's when you'll have to pay for your nonprofit account, but it's a discounted rate. And I've put here on the bottom of some slides, and you can see here, there is a link to Google for Nonprofits, which if you click on that, will show even more detail about all of the benefits and the plans related to the different products. Before we talk about getting started, I just want to point out that Microsoft also offers a very similar products, and they also offer their suite of products for free. So hopefully, if there are nonprofits joining us here today that are using Microsoft, you are taking advantage of their free resources. The reason why I just really love Google Workspace is that I feel it's really user-friendly, really intuitive. So there's less of a learning curve for new people or inexperienced people. And there's also a lot of built-in security and in ways to share, which also Microsoft has. But again, we're going to focus on Google Workspace today. So there's just a few steps to get started. If you don't have an account already, there's just a few things you need to do. Number one is look at the eligibility requirements. And if you are a nonprofit in good standing, you most likely are eligible. There's maybe some details that Google provides in their help articles. You request a Google account for nonprofits for your organization. And the accounts, I'm sorry, the requests are reviewed within a couple of days, but it can take up to 2 business weeks. But it should usually be verified really quickly. The third-party vendor that verifies may ask for additional documentation, but then again, it should be approved pretty quickly. And then Google will send an email to the administrator. So the person that really requested the account is considered the administrator, and they will activate the products that the team can use. So pretty easy. And I also mentioned here, so if there's folks from schools, there is a Google for Education product line, pretty much the same products, but they're just categorized differently. Instead of Google for nonprofits, it's Google for Education. So today we're going to focus on the top 5 tips, and these are based on the registration responses and what you all were interested in learning about in today's session. And almost half of the group listed Google Drive as first, as a hot topic for them. So we're going to have a couple of tips there. And as we review each of these, I'm going to share some real life examples for each. Pause between each section just to see if there's any clarifying questions. Yenting is going to be able to moderate the chat in the Q&A section. So please put in any questions there, and Yenting can queue up those questions. And I'll happy to answer anything on the spot if I can, or I could follow up with folks after if it's a more detailed question. Okay, so our first tip is related to Google Drive management. So Google Drive is basically the main hub for all of your files, all different file types, everything that's really connected to your organization. And you can share all your different files in the drive with people in your organization, and you can search for everything. So there's a lot of benefits to having everything in one place. You can share with your staff members, volunteers, board members, and even donors. And there's a lot of ways you can manage the access and control the user's ability to edit or view. So if you only want people to be able to view files in here, you can set that up for individuals or groups of people. You can also have multiple shared drives, maybe have a drive for board members, for example, for all of the files related to governance. And then there's a little tip here that I recommend. I like to suggest this to nonprofits who are trying to set up their files and make collaboration easier, is to decide on a file naming convention that that everybody uses, and that will help people find and recall of things a lot easier, and also will just help with searching and organization. So you can define those rules for yourself, but I would suggest anything that's going into your shared drive has as a naming convention that could be helpful to everyone. I do want to just make sure that we clarify the difference between My Drive and shared drives. So there's a big distinction here that can lead to a better organization and access. So My Drive is the default location for every user when you're creating or downloading a file or any materials. And so when you're using My Drive, team members cannot access your files. When you share things in shared drives, you have organization-wide access or access to the people who need it. And you can, having them accessible to other people is really the great benefit. And then you can use multiple drives. So I did show here that the default saving location can be changed. And that's an easy setting to update so that when your files are getting automatically saved, they're saved to the shared drive instead of your own personal drive. I would not do that if you're primarily in a role that has a lot of confidential documents, but for a lot of people that are in programming or other areas of nonprofits, it might be worthwhile to take a second to change the setting for all of your files to go into the shared drive instead of your own personal drive, especially for projects that you're actively working on. And also, I would just take a minute as a team, do a little quick project together to make sure that you're all kind of cleaning out your My Drive and just dragging everything into the shared drive again for greater access. So I'll pause here just to see if there's any questions before we move to the next item.
Yes, we have a question. What is the difference between shared drives and a regular folder for which you manage permissions and share with your team? Is there any advantage to using shared drives?
Great question. So everything really will live in the shared drives, and within the shared drive, you'll have the option to create folders. So I like having folders for organization. And actually, the next tip, that's a great segue into the next tip because I'm going to show you a sample of how one organization I worked with, how we structured their drives for greater organization. So was there anything else, Yanting?
That is the only question that has come
Okay,
through.
great. So let's dive into that. So here I have provided a couple of bullets about a sample organization method. This was an organization that had files in a lot of different locations, some on their desktop, some in different drives. And we reorganized to this structure that was helpful for a lot of different reasons. The administrative drive was we ultimately use that as the primary drive to hold all the documents related to day-to-day operations. And then in there, this might help address the previous question. There were folders that we created for this organization. We did it for each functional area. So there was a strategic planning folder, programming, marketing operations, and so on. And then within each of those folders, we had files organized in another folder by year or by event type. So that just helped keep everything a little bit more streamlined when you're kind of looking at the screen and searching for something. We also created a board drive. And so this was a separate drive within the organization. And we put all the files related to organization governance in here and shared it with all board members. What we did here that was different, that really helped kind of eliminate any version control issues or having duplicate, outdated documents, is instead of kind of copying a budget document, for example, into this drive, we created a shortcut. So it only needed to be updated in one place, but the shortcut to that document was accessible by the board. And so they knew that they were looking at the most current information, which is really helpful because before there were the same document kind of sitting in multiple locations, and then inevitably one's going to be outdated. And then this organization also had a fundraising events drive. And this was intended to be used by volunteers who were planning the events and had all of their files there. Everyone could add, create documents there. And we made sure that we kept strategy or confidential donation information just completely out of this drive so there wasn't any error getting that information out broadly. And I'm going to show you, it's not an active screenshot. I just kind of had to play with it on the screen here of what it would look like in practice. So this is where we have the administrative drive, all of those folders, and then the strategic planning, we have subfolders by each year. And then we can set access for the right team members. We could lock certain folders that we didn't want team members outside of that area to access. So there's lots of different ways that you can organize it and set the access to for your team efficiency and for confidentiality reasons. And I will just mention that I don't recommend sharing documents at for your team. I don't recommend just sharing documents at a file level because if it's for like your 2025 strategic planning folder, for example, that's going to be a really active folder. And if you're just trying to share documents one at a time, inevitably it might be too easy to forget to share when you're creating a new document. But if you give everybody access to that 2025 folder, then you know that every time a new document is added to that folder, the team members will have access to that. Any questions about this? Okay. So the next topic is around content creation and collaboration. So this was an area of interest by folks that registered, but there could be a whole lot of things that we can talk about around content creation. So for today's purposes, I just want to mention a few highlights. So content can be created through docs, sheets, slides, forms, which I think we all use fairly regularly in the nonprofit space, and also sites. So those are kind of some of the go-to apps that are used to create content. They are all cloud-based, so that's how I access most of these things through my browser. But there's also an app, so you can access the drive for your desktop, and that will be automatically synced. So whether you're when you're opening the file either on your drive or on your browser, it will automatically keep everything synced up. And the thing that I love the most, and I know a lot of other companies do this now, but the apps are collaborative. So if multiple people need to edit a Word document or a Docs document, I guess, you can open it and access it at the same time. You can edit it. You won't overwrite everybody's content. You can also see what everybody is adding and adding to the document, which is just a really great feature. You can also save attachments from Gmail directly into your drive. You can edit PDFs in Google Workspace, and tied to the collaborative aspect of Google Workspace, you can view others' activity and also document history if you don't access it a lot and need to catch up on what's changed since you were there. And finally, I would mention that for folks that do more content creation kind of beyond some of these workplace apps, there is a separate product called Google for Creatives, and that provides more products and toolkits. So just wanted to flag that here, even though we won't go into great detail today. Any questions on content creation? Okay. So, an important piece of Google Workspace for nonprofits is the admin console. So, this is a place that administrators use to manage the services for all the people in the organization. They can add or remove users. So, when new team members join or leave the team, they would manage that through the admin console, and they can apply settings to a group of users, either board members or departments or volunteers or so on. I would also recommend adding additional admin roles. Usually I've seen in smaller nonprofits, the executive director is the admin for the organization. And it's nice to have a backup just in case there are immediate needs that have to be addressed, or someone's access it needs to be changed. And it's good to have a backup person to be able to do that. So I'd recommend if your organization is large enough to have someone in IT or operations, or even HR, that they could be a backup admin if the executive director is that person. Again, there's a lot of other tips here, and this is just kind of scratching the surface, but you can verify and manage the organization domain. So the domain is the website, like for example, aparo.org. You can create groups for your organization. Again, you can make a development email address for your organization. Also, a lot of nonprofits have a bring your own device policy. We all have our own phones that we use for personal and work reasons. And on the admin panel, we can control which workplace apps are accessible on a device, and either an Apple or Android device. And then also you can customize settings for each of the apps like Gmail, Calendar, and so on. You can enforce a lot of security measures like two-step verification and passwords, a lot of other security features, and manage the cloud storage. So if you find that the organization is getting close to using all of the storage, Google will send you a message, but you can also monitor that in the console. And there's a lot of other great features on the admin console, and that resource will kind of show a little bit more about what you can do there. Any questions about the admin console here? Again, it's hard to just kind of just show the highlights of this because there's a lot of nuance and detail in the console, but I have found it to be really user-friendly as an admin, and there's also a lot of help resources. So when you're in the moment trying to figure out some of these things, there's a lot of articles that can help you right away. All right, we'll move on to our next tip. About Gmail. So again, this is a topic I feel like we can do a whole session just on Gmail and about managing our inbox and productivity. So just a few highlights here to make sure that everyone's kind of familiar with Gmail as a tool. So each person in your organization needs a user account and email address to use your Google Workspace apps. You can have like I said before, there's really essentially no limit. There's a 2,000 person limit for a nonprofit account for your organization. So you can really create them for board members or volunteers or anyone that you feel would need an email address. There's also in Gmail, I sometimes kind of forget that this is an option, but in the settings, you can activate offline access. This is really helpful if you find yourself away from Wi-Fi. Maybe you're on traveling on a plane and need to get to your email, and you can do that with this offline access feature. And also another feature that I have found myself using quite a bit to create and compose messages are templates. So if you have kind of a standard reply that you send to people, you can create it in a template and you can customize it before sending. So it's not just that standard kind of boilerplate template, but it's a great starting point so you don't have to retype the same type of message all the time. And there's also auto replies that you can kind of create and set up rules for that. Lastly, I just want to mention that there's several ways that you can organize your Gmail inbox. There's labels and filters that you can set up. Filters will kind of automatically move messages into your folders for you, so you don't have to do that, which is a really nice feature I use a lot. And then even inbox sections so that all of your high priority emails or all of your unread or starred emails can sit in the top section below the rest of your messages. So there's a lot that we can kind of dig into there, but I wanted to make sure that folks are aware of some of those features today. Those are really the top five. So I want to pause here again just to see if there was a question about Gmail before we spend a little bit more time on what I'm calling bonus tips. So beyond kind of the top five. Anything here? Okay. So let's talk about some of the additional tips and best practices. As you saw kind of in the earlier slides, there are so many apps that Google Workspace offers. And I want to mention some of those here. We have calendars, and a really great thing for nonprofit teams to take advantage of is the shareable calendars. And that will just really help kind of the back and forth of having to check with people if they're available, if a room is available, and so on. There's some additional Google for Nonprofit tools, which we can talk about really quickly today. There's also some extensions for integrations or add-ons that there's a couple popular ones worth mentioning. And then there's some great apps here that can be really useful if you want to keep everything housed in your Google Workspace. So there's the Keep app for online note-taking, and that's very similar to OneNote in Microsoft. There's the Voice app, and this is a paid feature, but this is great if for online calls, texts and voicemails, and again, keeping it kind of tied to your organization's all the other features and apps. Similarly with Chat and Meet, those are apps that are great for team collaboration. Teams already might be using Slack or Zoom. I know we've all kind of become really comfortable with Zoom in the past couple of years, but Google does offer their own kind of in-house products. Google Forms, again, I know this is one that a lot of nonprofits use, especially with participants or community members, excuse me. We can create forms and surveys, and there are even apps that can help you kind of analyze that data a little bit more than it already does so. And then Google Sites. This is maybe not used as much, but it is a great app if you're creating an intranet either for your team or for your board or volunteers. There's a lot of different applications for how you could use a Google site. So we'll dig in just to those top three bullets there so I can share a little bit more about each of those today. So here's a little bit about Google Calendar. Again, this is one, if you're in Google Workspace already, you're most likely using this calendar. The great benefits here, I think, are beyond scheduling and joining meetings is you can have group calendars. Again, a lot of organizations will use Google Calendar to reserve rooms in their space, block holidays on a group calendar. We can have event invitations automatically added to your own calendar. There's a lot of other specific settings within invitations that can be really helpful. You can also add tasks directly from you can create them in your calendar or add them from the Gmail or the task apps and have that visible on your screen. And this screenshot here below is just demonstrating how if you have joined other calendars, so you'll have your own calendar as the primary calendar. And if you are connected with other group calendars or they've been shared with you, you can layer them in one view. And this screenshot, I know it's a little fuzzy, but it shows a daily view. And this person has 4 calendars checked, and you can kind of see them represented in all of the different rows. You also have a weekly view, and it will be a different, they'll be more condensed, but you'll be able to see with different color coding which events are tied to kind of which calendar, which I really love. And I use my calendar. I will often say my Google Calendar is my brain. I will layer my work events and also my personal events. So I have kind of a holistic view of everything that's going on in my day. So I really like Google Calendar quite a bit. Any questions on Google Calendar specifically? Okay. I want to just briefly touch on some other products that are offered to nonprofits outside of Workspace. So once you have been validated as an eligible organization, like we talked about earlier, you are also eligible for these different products. There's Google Ad Grants, which if you're not taking advantage of, it's a really great thing to explore. It's in-kind advertising on Google Search. It has a value of $10,000 annually, and it will put your organization just kind of front and center to be able to reach more folks. And so that's a really great benefit to take advantage of. There's a lot of questions that are covered in their FAQ document that I listed on the bottom of the slide. There's also the YouTube nonprofit program. So this allows you to create YouTube videos for your on your YouTube channel for your organization, which is really great. There's also a donate button that you can add to your YouTube page. And Google for Nonprofits will absorb the cost of those donation fees, which is the transaction fees, which is really nice. And then also Google Earth and Maps. So this is a tool I have not used as much myself for nonprofit work, but it could be really helpful to as a visualization tool to kind of share your impact or help your community members find your program and resources. So I just want to make sure for today that folks are aware of all these different products that could be useful to your organization. Any questions on this? I saw the chat number tick up, so I didn't know if there were some questions here.
I've been dropping a lot of resources while you're
Oh,
chatting.
great.
So I just dropped in, if you are, I know Google Ads can be complicated for those of you who have tried it. So we did do a webinar around it. And if you do need more support on it, we do have vendors who are specifically um, who can help you with that.
That's fantastic. Great. And just quickly, I want to touch on some of the extensions that are available through the Google Marketplace. I've listed here just a simple list of some popular integrations that so you can with the add-on tool, you can link your Canva account to your Google Drive. You can link it your Zoom account. That can be helpful to kind of automatically create links for your meetings and your event invitations. You can also, if you love using Slack and you don't just want to exclusively use chat, you can link Slack to your Google Workspace and share Google Documents in your Slack channels. And there's also now there is an AI feature called Gemini AI, and Google Workplace offers that. It is a paid feature, but it's another AI tool that might be worth taking a look at. I know there's a lot out there, so just something to explore. And then there's a lot of other integrations available on the marketplace. A lot of the ones that I use are free, but there's also some paid integrations that may be helpful for your organization. So that was everything we wanted to cover today. I just want to wrap up sharing some next steps and resources. The first one here is I would recommend appointing a tech champion to support your team. So this may be someone in the administrator seat. This may be someone in your operations or IT function, or even just a really tech savvy user that wants to remind people to take advantage of some of these tools. That's kind of how I myself kind of dug into an operations role. I just kind of leaned into learning about all these tools and resources, and then just started promoting them for the team. And I really, I'm sure there's maybe some other people that would like to play that role as well, but that might help with adoption of some of these tools across your team. There's also a quick start guide for nonprofits. If you are the administrator or anyone here, I recommend taking a glance at this document. You'll probably learn some new tips or just be reminded of some features that are great to use, especially if you are just getting started. You can set these things up and easily and have a really strong foundation getting used to the tool. I provided my contact information on one of the first slides, and I'm just offering folks here to reach out today if you have any quick questions or any quick troubleshooting needs that kind of came up around some of the topics we talked about today. I'm happy to follow up with you. But if you also feel that you want more support from a tech therapist or even an expert vendor to help you create a Google Workspace for nonprofits for your organization, I'd recommend reaching out to Aparo, and Yenting or the rest of the team will help get you connected with a great advisor to help your organization. So I do hope this was helpful today. Again, there's users, Google Workspace users at a lot of different levels here. I do hope that everyone is able to take something away that they found helpful. And before we wrap up, I would also just open up. We've got some time left still. So if there's any kind of general questions that we didn't cover today, I'm happy to try and address things the best that we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Tanya. A lot of great information. Um, we do have a couple questions that came through. So how many email accounts are available without a fee?
2,000. That is a real number. So you can, as long as you have the nonprofit type account type, then you can have virtually as many email addresses as you want for free. The where you will have to start to pay is if you need a lot of storage. So that's kind of hard to quantify in terms of like the number of documents. If you have a lot of video content or things like that, it's going to use your storage more quickly than an Excel document. But again, for email purposes, it's free.
Let's see, we have a question around Gemini. What does Gemini do that is different than ChatGPT?
That's a great question. I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I have not really used Gemini. I do know it can be integrated directly into your Gmail and into your chat, so it can help.
Oh, Tanya, you're frozen if you can hear.
Gmail itself.
You froze a second there. But I think what we heard was that Gemini, there might be some similarities with ChatGPT, but you can integrate Gemini into your actual workspace. And when you ask questions, it might go into your tenant to actually pull out some of the answers. Um,
Yes, exactly. I'll sorry for freezing. I'll just repeat that again. So it's especially could be helpful in Gmail or in chat, and the Gemini can help you compose a message right in Gmail instead of having to go to Chat GPT, compose it, and then paste it back into Gmail. Um, again, it's just kind of eliminating that outside step.
thank you. So we have a couple questions for our recording. Yes, I will be sending out the recording. All of you who are attending, I will send out the direct link, so you don't need to search for it. Um, to someone who said they arrived a few minutes late, yes, Google Workspace for nonprofits is free when providing the 501(c)(3) information. Like I said, I'll send out the recording. Tanya did a good job with some step-by-steps there. So we'll be sure to share that information with you. Just checking if we miss any other questions. Please feel free to drop in your questions. I think we covered most here.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to cover this topic. Sorry if I'm freezing and talking over you, but thanks again.
You're okay. Thank you so much, Tanya. Did a great job summarizing such a big topic. I am going to drop a survey in the chat. If there's like a topic that Tanya covered that was really quick and you want to do an entire webinar on it, we can certainly do that. Just let me know in the survey. I think there's like an open answer at the end and just say, hey, I want to learn more about Google Drive. We'll do an entire hour, do some demos. I know that was a very popular question that came up through registration. Other than that, expect that follow-up email from me, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks again, Tanya.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.